What is up, beautiful people? We got ourselves a little nice rendition of we'll call it a night-night doubleheader. Our friends over at 94 Feet of Life are doing a combined show with The Dish, working on some things, and we figured we'd just come join and do our own thing and talk the beautiful game. As you know, you see many familiar faces here. Uh, Joe and our boy, Mr. Price is aptly named. Uh, we like to call him Simple Jack, but Mr. Price will do. Fellas, how are we tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Simple Jack, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Can't complain. Getting ready to go to work in a couple hours, but came to chill with my guys for a minute.
Gotta
That's
like that.
things
Mr.
things
West, how are you feeling, sir?
I'm great. Anytime I get to join you up and talk about the game and talk with my brothers, it's a good night in my opinion. Fellas, let's get right into it. This past weekend was a we'll call it a tumultuous weekend for us. Um, as most of you know, uh, Jack and I are uh, we're Chelsea fans. It's a little tough sledding at times, but we're getting there. We're building it Lego brick by Lego brick. Um, while Joe over there sits on his iron throne, and you know, waiting to be waiting to be knocked off. You know. Anyway, we had probably easily one of the top three games I've seen in the Premier League in probably the last 5 or 6 years, at least. Um, it was the first match I think I saw since 2008 or 2009 that ended 4-4 with four equalizing goals. So Liverpool and Arsenal in, I think it was 2008, played a 4-4 thriller, and there was four equalizing goals, and Arshavin went nuts. I think he had all four goals in that match. But
Sounds about right.
yeah, right, fellas. I know how I felt. That was a wild roller coaster match, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, but um, Joe, what coming from the top, looking down at us peasants, what were your thoughts
Well,
on the match?
why you gotta say it like that though?
Well, they say the shoe fits, lace it up.
That they do. Um, it was a phenomenal match for anybody who's not a Man City or Chelsea supporter to watch. If you're neutral, that's about as good as you're gonna get from any league across Europe, South America, Asia, wherever you want to go. That's about as best as good as you're going to get. Both teams were up for it. Both teams were passionate, fighting hard, going in to on challenges, working their asses off to win the ball back anytime anybody lost possession. You had goals. If you're here for goals, you're there. If you were looking for some great goalkeeping, both keepers, even though they gave up four, had some really phenomenal saves that kept their team in it. Sanchez and Ederson both really, really top quality, I thought, throughout the match. And if you were a neutral sitting there watching that game, you got to come away like, wow, that was amazing. I would have preferred it not to be a 4-4. However, um, I also am happy a little bit that it wasn't just a City like just dog walk, if that makes sense. Because we've up in since the Champions League final, we beat y'all six out of six times, and I think it's more fun for the Premier League and for fans of soccer in general when the bigger clubs, kind of like in all sports, when the big name teams, big clubs are all doing well and performing well, it's more exciting for everyone. So I thought it was fun. Couple of players I'm not really thrilled with, and they both coming with them wore the sky blue very recently. Not super thrilled with those guys. Palmer, not because you scored the game tying PK, great PK, beautiful strike by him. But
That
did you
for a kid
really
of
need
his,
to go in scuffing the PK spot on Holland and get yourself a yellow card against your former team like that? Come on, man.
my favorite before I get to Jack, my favorite moment from Cole though was probably when you guys had that free kick towards the end of the match, and he walks
Join the
right up
huddle.
Yeah.
like like old times, like, hey, what's going on, guys? What are we doing here?
That
It's
that was class. I appreciated that from him, and Holland also clearly did too. Because he smiled
yeah,
at him, grabbed him, and just shoved him away, play very
Yeah.
playfully. So
yeah.
there's no ill will there between those guys and that and Cole and our team in general. I think so.
Well, I think it was, a mutual departure. I think that, clearly Palmer's got the talent to fit into that city side, but I think he didn't want to wait, and kudos to him for seizing the moment and realizing and taking control of his career, even if it means leaving a powerhouse like City and coming to a rebuilding team like Chelsea, where you're not guaranteed Champions League right now. You're not guaranteed, even Europa League right now. So you have to seize every match, and every 90 minutes means more when you don't have all those extra games. So, I really haven't. I thought highly of him before. I know he was one of your highest touted prospects in the academy. Um, but man, like that, he has literally blown any expectation out of the water, on my end. Jack, let's go to you. Give me three things from the match that surprised you, and three things that disappointed you.
So surprised. Like I said over the weekend, if you told me before the game that we allowed City to score 4 goals, I would have assumed that that final score would have maybe been 4-1, maybe 4-2. Nonetheless, I just knew we would have lost. So the fact that we came out tied 4-4, I have nothing bad to say. I have more smiles over here. I would take the point and run away with it. You're not going to get one complaint out of me. Um, I'm surprised at how we showed up. Um, there's been a few moments this season where I've kind of gained a little confidence in how we consistently played or shown up and said, okay, I could kind of see where things are going. And then we have a match like 2 weeks ago where we get blown out by a team that we shouldn't even lose to. So, and I understand that it's a rebuild, it's up and down. So, as I said in the beginning, and I still stick to it, I have zero expectations. I go into every match open minded. I'm just watching because I love my team at this point. But I'm extremely shocked and happily surprised at how we came out during that game. As you all said, it was a hell of a game, even if you're a neutral. Goals, as a neutral, that's always what you want to see because most people who aren't, true lovers of the game, they feel like it's boring if you don't see too many goals, etc. But if you are neutral, if this is your first introduction, perfect introduction to it, as Joe said. It was a hell of a match. I love Palmer. I wasn't, I was never against it. I just necessarily didn't understand the transfer at the moment and when it happened. But again, as you said, Zach, he has blown away any expectations that I had of him. I am thrilled with him. Our least favorite signing of the year scored again.
And the crazy thing is, like, he's got 6 goals, right? That was his best goal of the year. He scored a hat trick in the last match, and that goal that he had in the City match was light years better than all the rest. And literally, there was nothing special to it. It was a rebound. It was a rebound off of a hard shot from Gallagher. But the one thing I've had an issue with Nico time and time again is putting himself in the right position. He constantly, like, he's high energy. He's got those Timo vibes, right? Like he's constantly trying to run and make runs. Credit to that. However, put yourself in a better position so you can make smarter runs. Not give me quality over quantity, right? So the one thing that I loved about that is he was in the great position to, read and react off of that hard shot from Gallagher. And then he put it into the net. Now, it wasn't super convincing. I thought it could have been a little bit better, but it was still I had zero complaints about that goal from him, which is surprising given my disdain for him.
I had a
Um,
lot of complaints about that goal.
from what
From my
perspective?
perspective, because three of our defenders just stood there and watched all of y'all crash in and follow up a shot, which was what they're supposed to. That's fantastic play and reaction and
Yeah,
anticipation from the Chelsea players. Because it wasn't just Nico that was there. There was, I don't remember who it was at this point, but I know there was a couple more royal blue
yeah,
shirts in the box right on top of Ederson, and none of our players even thought to like, hey, maybe I should go help the keeper out.
yeah,
Because that was a hell of, like you said, that was a strong strike, and that was a great save by Ederson on initially, and he's done his job at that point.
yeah.
Um, the
You're right.
defenders have to come back and track, and it was guys that I wouldn't anticipate or expect not to do that. It was Diaz and Josco and Rodri, all of whom have been excellent all season, and
Yeah,
all three I thought were pretty poor throughout the match and for us. And as a dad of a keeper, seeing a keeper get hung out to dry like that is taking on a newer uh, irritation from me, because
yeah.
I've seen that happen a few times with Jordan, where she's made a save and not gotten a lot of help from her defenders. Thankfully, in the fall season, she hasn't had that issue, but in the spring, that was definitely a recurring theme. So that's become a thing. But yeah, it was that goal in particular was very frustrating, because it was preventable if we had done what you're supposed to do as a defender.
So that was going to be my question. I know Stonesy's hurt, right?
Yeah, he went out after the Champions League match against Young Boys.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It showed like to me, it looked like your front seven were all okay. Um, your back four they looked tired. They looked very, very tired.
Mm-hmm.
Um, other than Akanji's goal, where he put himself in a good position, albeit it was poor marking by our defenders. Um, they looked really slow, and that was not something I was used to, and not something I've seen in watching city games and city
Mm-hmm.
matches. And for the first time, and this is weird for me to say because I'm a huge fan of his. For the first time, Rodri looked human. He looked he looked like just another midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's a good thing to have when your level is so high that when you have I mean, I don't think he played bad by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he
Right.
had a goal that was a lucky deflection off of Thiago, but I thought he had a good game overall. He looked human, and that was I think that's something that when you play all those games and you play every single match, and I know Rodri's about as cog, in that midfield as it gets. Legs get tired and lapses happen. So that was my one takeaway from City. If I'm looking from the outside in, that I thought that I was actually going to mention that I thought Ederson did a fantastic job on that play, given all the circumstances that shot was a rocket.
Right.
It was at that point, it was literally raining sideways,
The
and
rain
it was
towards
a
the end of that game was
monsoon.
nasty.
Yeah, and to expect a keeper to make that save, to catch that save and cover it up and smother it is just unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where your defenders, like you said, they hung them out to dry. So that was a little weird. The one thing, and I posted it in the chat, and nobody commented on it. And I was waiting for both of you to comment on it. I want to talk about that 95th minute PK
Okay.
and a one player who was previously in royal blue and now is in sky blue. I don't know if you saw it. Maybe you guys didn't see it.
I saw it and I watched it, and then I did not respond because I was in the middle of doing something, I think, and I was trying to clear some red dots off my phone. But I
It
definitely saw
seemed
it. It seemed like he kind of celebrated that shit.
it looked like Kovacic celebrated Palmer scoring that goal, and I
He
don't know if it
turned and kind
was
of like dropped his fist down, and it was that could
yeah
be interpreted as like him going like a fist pump, or it could be interpreted as like, damn, I'm disappointed. But he just kind of
yeah
like turned and walked away, and while everybody else kind of like stood and looked like kind of dejected, but he didn't like the body language was curious.
it was curious at best, and you know, and a lot of that was his first game back at Stamford Bridge. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's been his home for a hot minute now. He's, you know, quote unquote one of our own. We treated cul-de-sac Kovacic quite nicely there. But that was a very curious celebration, or non-celebration, if you will. But the one thing, you know, like Jack, like you said, it was high scoring, and people who are not fans of the game always complain about it being not high scoring, which is mind boggling to me because if you look at the NFL, you know, a 14-7 game is not 14-7, it's 2-1. You know, if it's a 14-10 game, it's 2 to 1.5.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I never understood that. Like you're not comparing apples to apples here, but you know whatever. I get it. We're still growing. The we're still the fastest growing sport in the United States, and it's growing exponentially. Um, but that definitely was on my mind. I was like, oh, this is a 28-28 game.
Yep.
But I don't know. I'm curious to see, you know, if what others thought of the match. I know we got your boy Colby in the chat. He's not quite active much, but I know he probably has his own opinions on the game and your snobby boys. I don't know if you've put out an
We
episode
did.
about
We
it yet.
dropped one yesterday with a heavy emphasis on the game, and all from the city perspective, of course.
Well, yeah, and we conveniently did not get an invite to combat any of your opinions,
that,
but you know
that was
we'll
because I wasn't sure what time we were actually going to go because I was traveling back from Richmond from the soccer tournament, and then I would had to turn around and then watch the game too, and it was like 8:30 by the time I finished the game. And we were like, "Are we gonna go tonight, or do you guys feel up for it? We're doing this Monday." And then we decided we were just gonna go for it and get it in. So, um,
convenient.
yes, there was a little Chelsea bashing. It
Yeah.
was fresh off of my mind.
Shocker.
But there was also some complimentary things said about Chelsea as well. Because
Oh, and I don't doubt that, and I mean that in all sincerity. The few the few times I've watched your guys' episodes, I've gotten a very objective vibe. You know, obviously you guys are going to be more geared towards your own team and have a bias. I mean, that's normal. But I think you guys do a good job being objective and trying to at least see beyond the sky blue glasses, if you will.
you had mentioned Kovacic being one of your own, right?
Mhm.
You know who's not one of our own anymore, in my opinion?
I was gonna
Someone we
segue.
haven't mentioned yet at all
I
after
was
10, 15 minutes of talking about this match. We haven't
Yeah.
even mentioned someone who is no longer a sky blue, in my opinion, who I held in a very, very high regard and
this.
defended multiple times in our group chat and talked him up quite a bit. And then he went ahead and did me like that yet on Sunday. Nah,
I
Mr.
was
Mr. Raz, Mr. Raheem Sterling. You're not a blue no more. You are a Chelsea kid, and that's it. You are no longer part of my family, bro.
so
You
you're
I'm done with him.
saying that if when we come to the Etihad, that Raz deserves to be booed.
I would boo him at this point, yes.
Wow.
Oh,
I
Wow.
and in previous time, and when he first returned back last season, I was adamant that he should not, because that was a conversation among City fans and in some of the City groups that I'm in. Was talking about, what are we going to do with Raz? Are we going to boo him? What are we going to do? Are we going to cheer him? We're going to give him what? And I was at that time, it needs to be overwhelmingly positive for him. But his behavior and his attitude towards our players yesterday or on Sunday, not fam. Nope. Man, can't do it. Got none for it. And if he scores against us, it has nothing to do with the fact that he scored on us. That's part of the game. It has everything to do with the extra chippiness and the tude he had, in particular, going in on Phil. Whether it was a slip or not, that is up to interpretation. But after the fact, him insinuating that Phil was faking and telling him to get up and having an attitude with Phil afterwards. You've known this kid since he was 15 years old, 16 years old. He's not somebody who dives and then rolls around on the floor if he's not actually been hit. So what we're not going to do is stand over him, say, get up, those kind of things. I was very irritated with Raz after that game.
I get it. Like, trust me, that when I saw that challenge, I did the kind of look, because that was rough.
Even without the slip, like, he came in hot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. And that was the thing. I think it was a combination of, he was coming in really hot, and the pitch is slip and slide.
Mm-hmm.
When you have those two things, and I get it. Like, I try to take into the fact that it was a tight match. Everybody wanted to
emotions are
win.
High, absolutely.
Yeah, everything is, and this is, just like Kovacic probably wants to prove something.
Mm-hmm.
Raheem and Cole, they want to prove their worth and prove everything. Like, I get it, but it was a rather, I'm trying to find the word, excessive, I guess is the best word. It was a little excessive given everything. He could have easily achieved the same thing by grabbing him. If you wanted to stop a play, if that was the goal, because I don't really think he had a chance to get the ball. And so that, truthfully, I think he was lucky to walk away with it being, just foul, because it could have easily been a lot worse.
Hashtag Anthony Taylor.
There you go.
Well, and that was, I was hoping to avoid talking about that piece of dog shit.
That's the general vibe that we dropped with the Snobby Boys. Was he was consistently shit for both teams. It wasn't like he favored one team, one side or the other. He wasn't showing favoritism to Chelsea or City. He was just crap for everybody. Which
Anthony Taylor, and this is, you baseball fans will know, Anthony Taylor is Angel Hernandez, and he is hands down the worst officiating pile of shit I've ever seen.
It just doesn't make sense. I think I said this to you guys, and I said it on Snobby Boys too. How do you get demoted to the championship as a punishment for being shit? And then the very next Premier League weekend, you get the game of the fucking weekend. How does that make sense? How is there any kind of consequence for him? There's no accountability.
You send his ass to Merseyside for Luton Town and Liverpool if you want to give them a match. You send them to Burnley versus Nottingham Forest or whoever,
yes, you don't give them the prime time game. All that says is it doesn't matter what you do, you're still going to get your normal reps. You can be shit, you're still going to have your job, you're still going to get big matches, and we don't really care if you're crap.
But yeah, I agree. There was missed calls aplenty from both sides, and we talked about it. The Raheem challenge, Gallagher had a few that were, questionable. The non-handball,
the Kyle Walker blatant as you could get handball.
That was
Not in the box, but close enough to be in a dangerous
Yeah,
spot for you guys to have a free
yeah,
kick.
and you
It
guys
was,
scored directly after that too.
yeah. So
You
that
know,
was an impactful non-call.
but it's also part of the game, and you got to deal with it. So it, at the end of the day, Anthony Taylor didn't cost either of us.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, I think it was, there was definitely things that could have been changed. The Holland penalty, Raz's challenge could have been a straight red, in my opinion. Um, like that. There are a lot of things that could have changed. Overall, I was happy. I was happy with it, and when we had this run of fixtures, I told you I was like, if we get 15 points from this run of fixtures, that'd be a really great thing. And we're not going to hit 15, but you know, I think we could realistically get 14, and that's with a draw at Arsenal, a draw to City, and a win against Tottenham. Like that's 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the top three teams, and you have two draws and a win. Most teams are going to take that when you're fighting for a championship,
Absolutely.
a Champions League spot.
Yeah.
So,
Jack, when
that's
we went and saw them in preseason, this was the Chelsea that I anticipated seeing from the start of the season, and why I picked them as high as I did in our preseason rankings. So I thought
yeah,
that this was the energy and the vibe and the intensity that I was going to see out of y'all all season. And for a variety of factors, we haven't seen that consistently yet. But this is the Chelsea I anticipated and expected to see under Pochettino from the jump, and it just hasn't. It's just taken a little while to get going. So I think you guys are trending the right way, and I think under Poch, none of us were super convinced with, but as a top manager, never said he was a bad manager, just not like elite at this point. So
Yeah.
I'm super curious to see what happens when Nkunku comes back, because to me, I don't care if he has 6 goals. I don't see how you don't put Nkunku in for Nico, and then run Raz and Cuckoo and Cole up top with Gallagher, Enzo, and Caicedo behind him. Like that, to me, that makes sense. Whether you put Cole in the middle or you put Nkunku in the middle, it doesn't matter because they've both shown that they can play that. I would imagine Nkunku will go in the middle, but yeah, I'm truly curious what this international break's gonna bring.
I would love to see Cole play underneath uh Cuckoo as more central, because I think he's been way more impactful for y'all. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but when he's played in a more of a 10 than a wide position, he's been very influential for y'all.
He plays the 10 really, really well. And I think that's clearly his best position. I would ideally like to see him a little bit behind both Raz and Kunku. And then you can run a double 10 if you want to call it, or however you want to run and arrange the midfield three behind him. I would do it. Maybe you're going to play, Palmer as a false nine and allow him to do 10 things. That's fine too. Whatever. I don't really care how you string it up, but I think you're right there with that. I'm sure we could talk about Chelsea and City for another hour, but let's segue out of it and get to the Champions League, because boy, are there some tables we need to look at.
That group of
Not
death.
looking at you, Manchester United, but you got some sledding to do, fellas.
You
But the
love
only saving grace for them is that Bayern is going to be wrapped up their position being first in the group, and obviously that they've already advanced. So the only thing I think that might save them a little bit potentially, and this requires them to handle their business and beat some teams, but their next game, they got Bayern last, And Bayern will have absolutely nothing to play for outside of saying fuck you to Manchester United and trying to keep them out because they're going to have first place wrapped up in that group before they even kick off against them. So that's a slight positive if you're a United fan, but that's kind of about it because you got some work to do. And I saw on
they have Copenhagen again, right? Or do
No,
they have Galatasaray and then
then
yeah,
Bayern.
that's right. And then Bayern.
And these social media sites trip me out because they try to like paint the picture that like, all things are all right in Manchester United world because they've won 4 of the last 5 and they've had more points in the Premier League than a couple of teams recently. I'm like, I don't give a shit. They haven't played anybody in the Premier League. When they played somebody, they got worked. They were terrible in the Champions League. So
I think if they don't win against Galatasaray, they're toast.
because if they lose to Galatasaray, then that puts them at 7. And depending on what happens with Copenhagen, if they lose if they lose to Galatasaray, they can't get out of the group. Regardless.
Yeah, so they have to hope a win or a draw, and then if they draw, they got to get help and beat Bayern.
Yeah.
So this, at least for me, this is a must win. If I'm a United fan, which I'm not, and I never will be because fuck that. This is a must win for them.
I'm more exploring the possibility that they won't even make it down to Europa.
No. If I don't see how they can. If they lose this match, I think they've clinched the last spot, right?
Depends on what would happen with
Copenhagen and Munich,
so
yeah, because they're both on 4 points, aren't they?
Copenhagen has 4.
Yeah.
I think what the catch is, I think it would then come down to like the last day. For if Copenhagen and United both respectfully lose their next games, then I think it would come down to that very last day.
United would have to get a draw and hope Copenhagen loses and then hope for a better goal differential.
Is it goal differential or is it head to head?
I think it's goal differential first.
Because if it's head to head, they're fucked.
Right.
Let me look right now. So
because they went 0 for 2. I'm looking at it. They have a worse goal differential by 1.
Yep.
Yeah. Down by 1 point. Yeah. So Bayern are already wrapped up actually, for argument's sake.
Yep. Oh, they had it. Yeah, they had it 2 matches ago, I think. Pretty much. I mean,
and they got first.
Yeah, they're right. Yeah.
Arsenal are through. I think. I think
not really. I
mean, they have 9 points.
I mean,
they would have to lose both matches and both PSV and
or RC
Lens would have to win both their matches.
Yeah. So
and I don't think that's possible because I think they play each other.
Yeah, I think so. So I think they're through for all intents and purposes.
Which
they should, because that group was not difficult.
What we need to talk about though is can Sevilla somehow make it back into the Europa League so they can win it again? Because right now they're not
looking so good.
No. Madrid is probably the best team. As of right now, they're the team that's firing on all cylinders. They look fantastic.
Actually,
because Jude Bellingham.
Zach, to interject real quick. Actually, it can happen for Arsenal because PSV and RC Lens do not play each other.
Oh, they don't? So they'd have to drop both these matches and okay. Let's call it what it is. That's not going to happen. If it does, that would be some poetic fucking justice. And that God, I could not imagine what London would look like on that side of town. North London would be fiery. That's all I'll say.
That's true.
Group D has really surprised me. I thought Sociedad was going to be good. I didn't think they'd be this good. I think I had them picked last in that group. I thought Benfica was going to be better, but Benfica
Benfica is some
is,
ass.
oh my God, they
They
are
are
awful this
ass
year.
cheeks, dude. Sociedad made them look silly in their last match. That
Mm.
I watched a good chunk of that one, and it should have been 6 or 7. Nothing
Yes.
in the first half, let alone
Yes.
the whole game. That was abysmal, and that's from a Benfica side that's been pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think they had too many losses either, did they, this summer?
Yeah, I don't think they
who?
did Benfica.
Yeah, I don't think they
No, I
had.
mean, and they brought back Di Maria.
Yeah. Okay.
He's been
I
a
thought.
non-factor in the Champions League anyway.
Hmm. So it'll be interesting because that group is done. Like
Yep.
that's settled. It's just whether or not Salzburg is going to go to the Europa League or somehow Benfica is going to squeak by, which I don't think that's going to happen because they'd have to catch up on goal differential, and that's not looking good for them.
Mm.
Um, Atletico Madrid, how the hell are they +7 in goal differential? Because I've never seen a more boring team score many goals. Like how is this happening?
Uh,
Is Diego Simeone like some sort of new like? Is he playing attacking football now? Like
well,
what are
no,
we doing
well,
here?
it's top loaded because they just won their last game 6-0.
Okay.
That
Um,
that's more so where it came from. Other
who they
than
beat
that,
6-0? Was it Celtic?
Got to be Celtic, right?
yes.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah. Yeah, they won 6-0 their last game. That's where majority of their goal differential comes from right now.
Okay, that makes way
Cameron
more
Carter
sense.
Vickers, what are you doing, bro? Represent the US better than that, bro. Come on.
No, he's
That's
trash
tragic.
bags. Trash bags.
Even with all that goal scoring, they still haven't clinched nothing because Feyenoord and Lazio could still be the two that go through at this
I
point.
know
So that's what's wild
that's
about this. That group's gonna
Feyenoord
be fun.
is the Arrivederci. They're the leaders right now. So
Thought it was PSV because PSV hasn't lost a game yet.
it might be PSV. I thought they were both right up there. But if you're right, it may be PSV as well. Um, but yeah, that's a good group. The group of death has not disappointed.
At all.
Everybody's still alive.
Everybody's still alive, although I would be really surprised to see Newcastle squeak out of there just given everything that's going on in that club right now. They got injuries that are starting to pile up. They got Tonali, who is out until 2092. So, I would be really surprised to see them get out. Can I don't want to sound insensitive,
Okay.
but guess who's on the injury report in Milan?
Ooh, I know.
Yes, Mr. Mavor.
Oh, that's me. Is it Christian Pulisic?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
New club, same result. Pulisic gets out to a hot start, shows his flashes of greatness. Oh, this is why he needed to leave Chelsea. This is why he needed to leave Chelsea. And then I'm broken. I can't get up. It's let's just get that man a strength and conditioning coach that lives with him because I don't know what the hell he does on his free time, but it ain't strengthening any muscles because that man has had more hamstring injuries and muscle injuries than anybody I've ever seen.
Mm.
Although, if we're talking about former Chelsea players in Milan, and I
Ooh,
could talk about all 7 of them that are in their starting lineup now, it seems like. Um, I can't believe I'm going to say it, but Ruben Loftus-Cheek is looking like the best midfielder in that team.
I'm loving it.
That's
I'm
your boy, Jack.
loving it. I don't really have ill will towards any ex-Chelsea players who left this year. Well, with the exception of 2 or 3. But he's not one of them. Neither is Christian, but I'm just going to let Zach have his moment because I don't really have a leg to stand on in that argument. So
Well, that and you have his jersey hanging up in your closet.
that's really not the point right now, Zachary.
Well,
Anyways, But yeah, I don't have any ill will towards him. So I'm loving that he is killing it for Milan right now. Actually, all of our old players are doing pretty good as far as their team goes. So I'm thrilled as far as their careers go. Like I said, I have no ill will towards any of those players in that Milan squad. So I'm happy for all of them, especially Ruben, because I always felt like he should have got a little bit more of a run with us or chance with us, and he didn't. And I understand why he left. He deserved that. So I'm thrilled that it's going that way for him.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy for him. I hope he has lots of success. He uh, truthfully, like I've always liked him. I thought he was underappreciated and undervalued at Chelsea. Um, I don't I don't think I would ever get to a point where I'd want to see him in our starting 11. And that's just because as consistent as he is, I've never seen Ruben Loftus-Cheek take over a match. And that's not fair to him because not every player is designed to do that.
That player.
But I I treat my midfielders kind of differently. Like I expect them to be game changers. And I don't think that Loftus Cheek is that. Now he is steadily proving me wrong in Milan right now.
Right.
But it's a different game, right?
Yeah.
So, the Italian league is a totally different world, and rightfully so. And we've seen Tomori, who went there and became one of the Serie A's best defenders. Giroud, who is what is he's turning 65 this year, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Like he is still producing goals. He still looks great. Hell, he's got a better save percentage than half the goalkeepers in the Premier League. Um, so I'm happy for them, but it's a different league.
Yeah.
It's a totally different league. So, you know, I I always secretly root for Milan just because of their connection to Chelsea. Plus I like Leao.
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed.
Who does? I guess. Oh, that guy.
yeah, I know.
Love him.
He's he's good. His problem is that he gives me that Kylian Mbappe vibes. Like he's young, he's so talented and he knows it. And I
Mm,
feel like he takes plays off. I feel like he only plays hard when he wants to. Now Mbappe's gotten a lot better about it now, and he's transformed and he's transcended into a much more much bigger threat. But when Mbappe first hit the scene and first got big with France and PSG, I mean, I said it on the show numerous times. This was way back then that he was the guy that kicks it out, and he's faster than everybody, and he just runs by everybody, and he was a good finisher. So that was why he got big. He's made a lot of changes, but I'm getting off on a tangent here. That Leao just he gives me those vibes. Who's gonna speaking of PSG though, is PSG gonna win this group or are they gonna peter out against Dortmund?
I don't know if they win it, but I definitely think they advance.
So you have Dortmund and PSG advancing and Milan going to Europa? Because Dortmund's leading that group right now.
Okay, so it's a 1 point differential across the table. Who are the last?
All the way down.
Which is
So Milan plays Dortmund and Dortmund plays PSG. So Dortmund's last 2 games are against PSG and Milan. Mm, mm. That's tricky. That's tricky. That's tricky. And they play in Milan and they play in Dortmund for PSG. I don't know if they beat PSG though. I'm gonna
Did they
be
beat
honest.
him at the Parc des Princes?
Yeah, but I mean, are we really about to put their home stadium on some sort of like home fortress pedestal though? I mean, it is PSG after all.
They didn't actually. No, they lost 2-0.
Oh, well, see, there you go. So, so yeah, I don't know if
I was
Dortmund.
wrong.
Okay, I'll put it this way: worst case scenario, I see a draw. I don't see Dortmund beating PSG though.
So does Dortmund do Dortmund things because as much as I love Borussia Dortmund, they kind of have Tottenham vibes. They give up and could you see them go from first to third and drop into the Europa if
I'll
they
say,
lose to Milan and PSG?
so if they, I think, so let's just run this probability. Let's just say they lose to Milan but draw with PSG.
That would put them both on 8 points.
That would come down to,
Goal differential.
yeah, that would come down to goal differential with PSG probably winning the group, and it come down to goal differential between Milan and Dortmund. Yeah, and Milan plays Newcastle. So it's a good chance that Milan could possibly get 6 points from their last two matches if they manage to beat Dortmund in Milan and then go up against, like you say, everything going on with Newcastle right now would be the perfect opportunity for them to get those 3 points. And if they get all six, then yeah, I could definitely see Dortmund going from first to third.
That's that the Champions League, man. It's tragic. Like to see shit like this, like it's heartbreaking. It's weird being an outsider,
Ah,
because not playing European football is just really weird. It's kind of nice. I'm not gonna lie. Like I can focus on weekend matches and not have to worry so much about everything, and I'm not stressing like I normally do. But it's weird. It's definitely weird. City and Leipzig are done and dusted. Like that's over. Um,
oh
I have
yeah.
not had to worry.
Red
I've had
Star,
midweek matches, but I have not had to worry about them hardly at all.
no, no. Red Star and Young Boys were, to quote Kobe Bryant, soft.
Yes. Yes.
Extremely.
And
But
then
then they couldn't even beat each other. One of them couldn't even beat each other.
I know,
They just drew. They got their asses handed to them both. Uh,
tragic,
but they couldn't even beat. They drew. That's bad.
tragic. Group H is turning out to be quite the interesting uh, group now that Shakhtar beat Barcelona,
Right.
because now
That
you have
shifted it for sure.
yeah you have Barca and Porto at 9 with Shakhtar looking on the outside in at 6. You know, if they slip up again, either one of those teams, Shakhtar's right there. They're within striking distance,
Barca plays Porto next.
and that's a club. If you haven't
Ooh,
watched the
and that
Paramount
means
series,
Shakhtar has Antwerp, right?
Football Must Go On.
Yep.
Yeah,
So they could be sitting at
So
9 too. So
so
if one team wins and Shakhtar is sitting there lower on goal differential, but they're right there on points
yeah.
with
All it's
second
going to
place.
take is a slip up,
Yep.
yeah, and don't let them run away with that match against Antwerp.
Mhm.
and which is quite possible considering they've given up 11 goals in 4 matches.
Mm.
14 goals. They're negative
14 goals.
11.
Yeah,
They're negative 11 goal
yeah.
differential. Is
Like
the worst in the Champions League.
they're fielding 10 players. A goalkeeper's not one of them. You got Celtic who's given up 12, and then Young Boys have given up 11. Oh, who's this that's also given up 11? Oh, yeah, United.
Shots fired, baby.
What a wow. I
Three
like
losses.
I've been on United to ask lately, just given everything. But I truly like in a from just a football fan and wanting to see parity and things like that, like you guys better figure something out.
Yuck.
Because your forwards aren't scoring, your midfielders aren't creating, and your coach has no control. He has no control over that team. And I don't care what you say. I don't care if they've won 4 out of 5 in the Premier League. They've looked like dog shit while they've done it.
Mm.
Like, like I don't think Ten Hag's it. And that maybe maybe he can turn it around. I think he's got the talent, maybe. Like the United squad on paper is good. I've always thought their defense was a little shaky,
Mhm.
and I still, for the life of me, can't understand how you start Harry Maguire
Mm.
over Rafael Varane.
And
But
Johnny Evans.
Yeah.
well, yeah, Johnny, he's a hell of a guy. Uh, truth, truthfully, I didn't even know, and this is granted, I don't pay attention to the deep ends of the rosters, but I didn't even know Johnny Evans was still playing football.
I didn't either until
Like
about a month ago when he started playing again for them.
Mm.
I was like, I truly thought he did a Danny Drinkwater,
Mhm.
rode off into the sunset and never to be seen again. Had his flashes, had his 15 minutes of fame as a Premier League midfielder, and poof, gone.
What I don't understand with Ten Hag is a quote that he himself said. So there's no twisting of words, there's no interpretation. He said, "We're not going to play Ajax football, the brand of football that I made my calling card with Ajax and what got me the job here. We're not going to play that football." Ange at Tottenham brought his style of play from Celtic to
Yes,
Tottenham
yes,
with less quality in it and said, "We're running my system and this shit's going to work."
yes.
So why would you not play the brand of football that got you the Man United gig to start with? Are you
And
admitting
and
that your players are shit and that's the ones that you recruited? Because almost all the players that are there now are guys he brought in. So I don't understand
and
what he's doing. I really don't
let's
get it.
let's not act like Ajax wasn't a fucking juggernaut in the Champions League.
Mm.
Like they were tough. They were always a tough out.
Yeah. Mm.
Like
That Delit squad with Frankie in them. Mm. Mm.
yeah, you Frankie and Tadic
Tadic,
and Ziyech,
yes,
you
that
know,
squad. Anna, when he was actually good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You bring in Onana, who you are familiar with, and he looks like an academy goalkeeper.
Mm.
As
I don't know, man.
I don't know. I don't. This just doesn't make sense. And he's supposed to be like this second coming of Pep kind of shit. And it's like you are couldn't be farther away at this point from that comparison when he initially was coming over.
And the thing is, like, this isn't. He's not new. Like, it's not. He doesn't have that excuse. He's had time now.
Yeah.
Much
So I
time.
don't. I don't understand it.
He's had
You know,
he's had absurd amount of time in Chelsea manager years.
who you telling?
If we're
We've
talking
fired
like
him three
dog, if
times already.
we're talking about dog years, like a Chelsea manager being last in 4 or 5 months, that's like 2 3 years. So if dude has been around for a year and a half, that's like 10 years in Chelsea manager years.
He'd have been fired three times.
I'm saying,
Right. That's crazy.
We'd
Yeah.
have brought Jose Mourinho back four times.
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh, how's the real quick while I have it here? I'm gonna just run through the Europa League. West Ham is leading their group. Um, Brighton is second in their group. Ajax is last, by the way, in that
They've
same
been
group.
they've been miserable in the league too.
Yeah.
Oh, they're dead last.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're dead last.
And they just I believe they just fired their manager also.
I would fucking hope so. Um, Trying to think of Liverpool obviously is winning their group.
Right.
Uh,
Rennes is up there
you know,
Mm.
Roma's
second.
somehow with Slavia Praha. I don't know. Figure that one out. Who had that on their bingo card? And then
Leverkusen dominating.
Leverkusen. Leverkusen might be the are they the hottest team in football right now?
Possibly.
I mean, they're leading the Bundesliga, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe so.
And they are, yeah, they have not lost a single match all year
Nope. 10
in
wins, one
any,
draw.
yeah,
That's
plus
impressive.
24 goal differential
Mm.
in the league and plus 10 goal differential in the Europa. Like Xavi's not going to last long. Like
No,
either
Oh,
Xavi,
oh,
because
oh.
if Xavi in Barcelona doesn't produce results, they're going to call Xavi Alonso
and
and be like,
say,
hey,
mm-hmm.
I don't know.
same.
They the mumblings are with Ancelotti on the way out. Real Madrid plans to swoop in for that one. So
Ooh,
mm,
that'd
mm,
be
mm,
that'd be weird. I fully expect if Liverpool melts down and Klopp does his 7 year thing,
mm-hmm,
uh, Xabi Alonso will be the first manager on their list, which would make sense
Mm-hmm.
mm,
given his history there.
right.
But yeah, Ajax is a fucking dumpster fire.
Mm.
I've and you still like I'm looking at their squad right now. They're still like great players.
Yes, they have a team. I don't know where it all went left.
They're not the same as what they were, but they're still a good team. It's that's wild. That just
Mm,
um international break. We got the U17 World Cup going on right now. If you're
I
if you're
hate it.
following that, anything else that is on your guys' mind? I mean, I'm already ready for this international break to be done, so I
Well,
can get
speaking
into
of
Lubeck.
international football, not on the men's side, but there's a big story we would like to finish up with before we lose Jack here.
Yep,
With the women's side getting their new coach, but
it's
not for a little while,
it's
but the new
It's
manager is in
sad.
bittersweet.
place.
It's bittersweet. It's
Yeah,
bittersweet.
it's definitely sad news for us, in West London and to lose the probably
The goat.
the she might be she might be one of the most successful managers of ever in Emma Hayes for her to leave Chelsea after 11 years and she's going to be the new U.S. Men's national U.S. Women's national team head coach. Although I said this when Chelsea was looking for a coach, you could have called Emma Hayes and she could have commanded that room. I'm going to find that speech that she gave her team. Um, it had me wanting to run through a damn brick wall because like she talks about what it means to play for the badge and to play for everything. Like I don't think I don't think fans and fans of the women's national team understand the caliber of hire of what Emma Hayes is. Like she is, and I said this before you came on, Jack, but she's literally the it's like if the men's national team hired Pep,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and to have a coach of that caliber. I know that a lot of people wanted what's her name, Wegman, England's
Mm-hmm.
England's
Mm-hmm.
coach, just because she's had success in the World Cup, but she's only ever had success in the international level. Emma's had success at both levels.
Right.
She was an assistant coach at Arsenal when they won the Champions League, the Women's Champions League. Like she, I could sit here and praise her for hours because they literally knocked this out of the park. And for Emma to say that this is a dream come true for her, and that this was literally the top on her bucket list of places to coach.
Mm.
I mean, how can you not be excited for that?
I when I was looking at names and people who I thought might take over for he who must not be named, um, I didn't even consider her because I didn't think she would even be available in an option. I was looking at other names. So the
Yeah.
fact that this happened, I am so happy because it's night and day difference in quality of coaches that we're about to have after the past 4 years under Vlatko. So with the amount of young talent too that the U.S. women's national team has at their disposal, I think she's a perfect manager to come in and instill an actual philosophy and style of play, which we have not seen for 4 years because Vlatko ran the same system with essentially the same players every window for every tournament. There was no changing, deviating
Yeah.
to fit his players and how they played. So having somebody who is by far a much better coach and who understands how to build a dressing room and how to build that camaraderie and bring that back to the women's national team, because I was missing from this past World Cup. You didn't see the bonding experiences that we have grown accustomed to with the women's team, and the fellowship and team spirit that just wasn't there. And I think Emma's going to bring that back. And she's coached in the U.S. before. She coached in the NWSL for a few years, so she knows the lay of the land over here and knows most of the players that are going to be on her roster play in the NWSL, generally speaking. So she should hit the ground running, even though she's going to be picking up 2 months before the start of the Olympics, because she's going to finish out the season with Chelsea before she takes over the full time with the women's national team.
The good thing is that she recruited 2 players from the women's national team to play at Chelsea, Mia Fishel and Katerina Macario. And so, like, clearly she sees the talent. She knows the talent is there. So, that's going to be beneficial. That I'm hoping Emma takes the style of play that they play at Chelsea and brings it to the women's national team, because, hey, that's the smart thing to do.
Right.
Looking at you, Eric. But, like, I'm looking at her managerial honors. She's a 6-time FA Women's Super League winner. She is a 5-time FA Cup winner, a 2-time Women's League Cup winner. She's won the Community Shield. She was the best FIFA football coach in 2021. She was WSL manager 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. She's in the Women's Super League Hall of Fame already, and she wasn't even done coaching.
Talk about a resume, one
I,
in which that Vlatko never had, but he was given the job.
And thankfully that happened, because Emma probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Vlatko getting that job.
Right.
But I know Emma's been wanting to take a kind of a step back for a little while now, because she's hinted at in her pressers and her things that she wants to spend more time with family. The one good thing about coaching international side is that you get to spend a lot more time with your family. So it sucks from a Chelsea fan perspective. But if there was ever a silver lining, by golly, this is it, because I'm truly excited. I went through a period where I didn't want anything to do with the women's national team, for a myriad of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at you, Megan. But I digress. I'm excited to watch them again. I'm excited for what the women's national team can do. Fellas, thoughts before we take off?
One thing I wanted to touch on, we both have some pretty big matches when we return from our international breaks.
Yes, we do.
We
You got
play
them up?
Newcastle and City. Joe, you're
one versus 2.
You're a good old rival. I didn't realize there was only 1 point between you all.
Mm-hmm. We have Liverpool Saturday morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. right after Thanksgiving.
That might be the worst time slot.
It's less than ideal. Let's say that,
especially for a game like that.
I mean,
It's because of what we've seen on the Wrexham episodes about TV broadcasting. If it was any later in the day, they couldn't show it on television over there.
yeah,
So that's why it's at 7:30 in the morning.
Wow.
it's wild.
So, but as a shameless plug for my fellow snobby boys, Kyle is going to be driving down and spending Thanksgiving in Virginia back home. So we will be setting up a live podcast, kind of live reacting to the game at the bar down in DC at the city supporters bar. So we will have live Snobby Boys episode coming that weekend. So bright and early, we will be up and setting up at the bar with our equipment. So it'll be a fun Saturday.
Nice.
Getting the drink in early.
I hope you beat the ever loving piss out of them.
You and me both.
For that reason alone. But I want to thank you guys. This was kind of an impromptu thing. We shifted dates to kind of fit into some people's schedules, although we didn't see some of the usual suspects. I appreciate you guys and appreciate always spending time with you. So thank you for that. Big shout out to Colby in the chat. I got off for a little bit and came back to a firestorm of messages. So our bad on that, Colby. We'll definitely. I love the thought of a winter window meetup. So maybe we can get a combo episode, even if it's not all of us together. At least kind of cross paths and get some mixing. It's always good to have new faces and different perspectives because as much as I love to hear myself talk, I enjoy people who know the game and love the game and hearing their thoughts and that aren't
And me, Jack, and him had some great conversation at lousy ass FedEx Field. Even though
Yeah. It was a great day, man.
we had a lot of fun.
I was super bummed that I couldn't end up being there and definitely missed you guys. So like I said, I appreciate you fellas. And as always, I'm Zach, Joe, Jack, signing off.
Like, comment, subscribe, share.
Stoppage Time Football Club.
You know
Come
what to
join
do.
us.
Until next time.
Have a